Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 80 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. This evening, we are chatting with a brewery that I've wanted to talk to for quite a while. This last year or so since they've been around, they've really stuck out with a bunch of the stuff they're making from what I'm hearing, and specifically as well from their branding side. So I've been wanting to get this story. You guys are going to love it. Please welcome Andrew from Fine Balance and Nathan from NathanDoesBeer and BAOS. What up, what up?
Hey guys. Thanks for having me, guys.
Genuine pleasure, man. Thank you for joining us. This is
Good
awesome.
to meet you finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Loving it. Nate back. This is the first, we're just saying, we're doing these pre-records now as opposed to the live. So this is Nate's first foray into the pre-record world, which is, we've only done like 5 or something, I think. So, you know.
Yeah, it's true. And this is my first time back since we kind of wrapped up the spring season.
Yeah, you keep wrapping up all the seasons. You're like the finisher.
Right. I'm the closer.
Bringing her home. I love it. Andrew, this is awesome, dude. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. So first things first, you know the deal. We'll get into this bad boy right here that I have been eyeing for the last. It took some willpower because the last week or so I've been like, oh, maybe I could drink at least one of them, but I didn't want to ruin the options, you know.
Sitting in the fridge, just taunting you a little bit.
Staring at me. So this is your 4.8% Italian Pilsner. Is it Testaccio?
Testaccio, yeah.
Great name.
Testaccio is a neighborhood in Rome, actually.
Okay.
Where our head brewer, Eric, lived there right as the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
And then, he moved back to Kingston. And fortuitous that he started to work at the brewery.
That is very convenient.
Yeah, but this was one of the first beers that he wanted to make, actually.
Right.
We started talking about different styles and
Ooh. Smells amazing.
Look at that proper glassware right there.
Oh, I should have got. Oh, we got the proper one. Oh, love that.
Very nice.
Cheers, guys.
Oh, don't look at mine.
Cheers,
I take home some of the rejects. Yeah, cheers, guys.
What's in this one, man? What are the hops? What's the deal?
Yeah, so this one,
wow, this is
sort of like a German style. I think we dry hop this one with a little bit of Citra. And what else? I'm just looking, actually. I know. So we've done. We do 2 pilsners back to back.
Okay.
This has it's sassafras, one of the new hops out of Australia.
Sassafras. That's hilarious. I grew up around the corner from there.
Yeah, I should. To be honest, I don't know the other ones that are in this one. So we've done this Italian. Yeah, Untapped. I know. It's kind of embarrassing. We've done this one, and then our Precipice New Zealand Pilsner. So they're very similar actual recipes, both German-style Pilsners. But New Zealand has exclusively New Zealand hops in it, obviously.
Okay.
So it's a bit sweeter than this one. This one's definitely a little more kind of earthy, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's quite dry. It's definitely got that that earthy component, like you say, and kind of like a bit of spice on the like on the back end as it really dries out at the finish.
That's right. Yeah, definitely a bit of spice, which is nice.
What is that?
A little bit of citrus too.
Okay,
it's a good question. Yeah.
It actually says, it's interesting, I'm just looking at the Untapped as you guys are talking here, and it does say clove in the some of the tasting notes, so maybe it's a bit of that, just a touch of clove in that back end.
Yeah, a touch of clove in the back end, for sure. Yeah, that's clove, gorgeous. Yeah, balanced sort of bitterness.
Yeah.
A little bit of citrus coming through.
Yes.
For me.
Is this particular beer, is this inspired, obviously, from the brewer's time in Rome, but was it was this similar to, was he trying to replicate something that he really enjoyed when he was there?
Not necessarily when he was there. It's kind of a weird thing, but a lot of the Italian Pilsners out of New York City actually, I think, inspire him more. Okay. So just the idea of taking a traditional kind of German style and dry hopping it with interesting hops that give it all that kind of flavor and aroma. it's sort of an American thing. I think that breweries like, other half is known really well for their IPAs, but they've done sort of a pretty wide range of style as well. Something sort of more modern, a modern twist on an older style of beer.
I love this. This is brilliant.
But I think it's our most approachable, easy drinking, solid, just really good beer.
Yeah, it's super crisp, like really refreshing. Like it's this is one of those ones that you could drink any day of the year.
Yeah, approachable ABV too. Purposely
Yes,
made it
definitely.
a little lighter, 4.8. So we're conscious of that. We could talk a bit later about our packaging choices, but some of our higher ABV beers came initially in short cans only. But this is one, just for sort of drinking any time of day.
No, it's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, it's exactly what it needs to be, and I do appreciate a good. I mean, the short cans are cool for this style. I guess we'll talk about that later. But I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just love crispy boys so much. The short cans just aren't enough for the most part.
Yeah, the short can. I agree. Yeah, short cans aren't enough.
Yeah.
You want a little more.
Yeah, and for something that's under 5%, like that's something like you can crush a tall boy like a 4.8, no problem.
Easy. Multiple.
Oh yeah.
Particularly this one.
Yeah, easy.
No, this is great, man.
Yeah, especially something that's relatively light. Some of our, we've done a Gelato Sour series. We put those in short cans in part because they're just a bit more rich and creamy, a little heavier. This one is not heavy.
Yeah, packaging is a big thing as well. I definitely want to get into that because it's something that I feel like we were talking about that the other night on the Chinwag, Nate, weren't we? About the packaging for big stouts and stuff. We've got some. I definitely want to get into that because it's fun. Definitely prefer the big beers in smaller packages. So otherwise you end up with a cellar of 8 trillion 750s and.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there are some suppliers that are talking about doing 250 ml cans.
Yes,
here for and it. That'll be I think that's something that we would definitely explore when it comes to packaging big imperial stouts, or if we're doing a variation on something that's a bit more unique. And it'd be a lot to ask someone to have an 11% stout even in a 355 ml can.
The funny thing about that was I usually have because of the pandemic, I sort of made a more stricter drinking schedule for myself, and Wednesdays is one of my days off. It's like 3 days off, 4 days on, and the Wednesday I've began to, maybe during the summer I was feeling a bit cheeky and I started to cheat on that a bit, but I would have an 11% stout at like 11 p.m. I'm a bit of a night owl, so at the end of the night after dinner I would have that, and because I didn't have any other beers and I wasn't having any after, I could easily drink a 500 ml bottle of an 11% stout, and you kind of barely feel anything, maybe because you've just had food, and it kind of just feels like this sweet, like treat that otherwise you just like.
And like we've talked about with this, that's definitely one of those cases of when you've got a bottle of that size, you're usually nursing it over an hour and a half or something like that. Sometimes but it's funny how these things evolve though, because I'm thinking back like 5-6 years when I was kind of earlier on in my craft beer journey, and I feel like the bottles were bigger back then. Like it was more common for those big beers to be in big 750 ml bottles.
Oh yeah.
Like even some of the bigger ones, like Nickelbrook's, the Bastard series, used to be in 750 mils. I'm pretty sure. Like some of the other common LCBO ones would be in that size as well, and these are 12 to 14% imperial stouts. Like if you're not sharing that, that'll just get you wrecked. Yeah. But I like the trend towards smaller formats. Like that seems to be the direction that it's going in, and I think that's for the better.
Yeah, well, it maybe allows you to try more too, right? We want people to be able to try everything we have at some point. It's interesting though, you mentioned the big bottles. They used to come in huge bottles. One of the reasons why we would like the 250 is to kind of allow people to drink that beer that would never have it, right? So many people would see that 650 ml or 750 ml bottle and just never even want to try it.
Yeah.
Because it's
But
intimidating.
it's intimidating. It's really intimidating. Yeah. Unless you have a friend or two or three lined up to share it with.
It's really almost like the packaged version, of a taproom taster.
That's right.
That you can take home. Like you say, it's so
Yeah.
much less intimidating. That would actually open up more people to it if they can get it in a in a really not as intimidating format.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you can
Yeah.
even include price point in that too, because a bottle, sometimes $20 and plus, depending on what style of imperial stout it is, if it's barrel aged or it's got adjuncts and stuff. And who really wants to roll the dice on something that they may or may not like, may or may not be
Totally.
good objectively?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a risk. Something that has changed over time. Like we were saying, and traditionally it was only those big dogs, and you didn't really have a choice. And then now there has been that, and I think that it comes down to what you're saying, Andrew, about the, that letting everyone who wouldn't want to risk that $25 and also be like, when am I going to drink this, into this $2.50 that they can easily build into their evening with 2, 3, 4 other beers or whatever, and it's not such a big deal,
Yeah. And we're full of contradictions, to be honest. So like we started with oats and cream. We had a double IPA at the time, and then we had a light hazy pale ale, which was a 3% sort of New England style ale, and they were all in short cans. And we had great feedback from people that don't love IPAs or didn't love IPAs at the time, that it was very approachable to them, right? The style, but also the size. And so we're mindful of our customers to try and bring in a more diverse customer base who aren't just wanting to get drunk on tall cans of double IPA. But then at the same time, recently we've been releasing tall cans of double IPA, so it's tricky, It's tricky.
Got to do what the market
That's
wants.
that is a good
It's a
thing.
balance.
A
It's a
good
balance,
thing
yeah.
to.
A fine
It's a good
balance.
thing to be mindful of,
Fine
though.
balance.
To be conscious of what is going to be kind of like a more welcoming format, to bring in like a broader customer base, as you see. So we kind of dove straight into packaging formats. Should we jump back and and get into your beer story, like how you sort of how how you came into the industry, and what's your background before before Fine Balance and whatnot?
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit random, I think. So I was an academic. I still teach a little bit, university level, but it's been pulled way back because I am full time at the brewery. But I study work in technology and organizations, and a few years ago, at the same time, done some home brewing, not at an expert level, not at the level that would allow me to say, I'm going to start my own brewery and be in charge and brew everything myself, especially given the sort of vision for the type of beers that we want to make. I hope that sounds okay. We want to do really high-end, modern, super high-quality beers, no matter what the style, right? And we can maybe come back to that. So academic, doing some home brewing. I live in an old village in part of Kingston. It's called Portsmouth Village, where if you guys have heard of Kingston Penitentiary, it's sort of across the street, Kingston's first penitentiary. And so, 150, 200 years ago, this was a place that was filled with breweries. Started sort of reading about that as part of my work and part of my personal interest. And then, you know how it happens sometimes. You're having a couple beers with a friend, you spark a conversation, start talking about the fact that there used to be 8 breweries in our neighborhood, or within walking distance, and now there's none. But it's starting to come back. What would it be like if we tried to, reimagine what brewing could be like in this neighborhood or in Kingston in general? And sort of over the years, the next 2-3 years, that sloppy conversation ended up becoming a reality, which still is sort of shocking and surprising to me. And we started looking for a space, and eventually, realized fairly quickly that we couldn't find a space in this neighborhood that I live in, Portsmouth Village, because there's not a lot of commercial space. And, you have to start thinking about what's the size of your system going to be efficient enough, productive enough to actually try to make money one day. Yeah, so I guess maybe about 3 years ago, started actively looking for a space. Eventually found one. I will say, with great help from the brewing community around here. McKinnon Brothers, in particular, they're kind of one of the OGs in this part of the world. I think they launched in 2014.
Okay.
Dan McKinnon was really helpful, kind of looking at spaces with me, and eventually we found something in the east end of Kingston, which is not at all where we thought we'd be, but turns out it's pretty perfect to do what we want to do.
Yep.
And then, yeah, lucky. So there's a backstory with different brewers, professional brewers, professionally trained brewers coming and going, but ended up getting really lucky with Eric, who's our head brewer now, who, yeah, is professionally trained in Vermont, previously worked at Stone City in Kingston, has a good relationship with some other breweries like Matron. They're kind of like a bit of a big brother brewery to us from the county. And yeah, and everything kind of fell into place. And we're 1 year into it. I still can't sort of believe that everything has come together and we're continuing to exist and make, I think, really good quality product and hopefully provide a really good customer experience for most people who either step through our doors or have our beer delivered to them.
Love it.
Right on.
That's awesome, man.
And yeah, that's one of those things of like we're not going to spend too much time on this because it's one of those things that just gets asked like over and over again about like what it's been like during the pandemic. But you guys, like a couple of other breweries that we know, like Third Moon and Cinquième Baron, and even one of your neighbors, Daft down there, all breweries that opened up in the middle of 2020 and just because timing just really dealt you a blow there and kind of had to try to navigate your business in the middle of that, as opposed to what it would have been like if you had been able to just open your doors to the public on day one, right?
Yeah. I mean, totally not what we had planned, obviously, like in terms of the different revenue streams. Taproom was supposed to be, or like on-site sales was supposed to be pretty high. But we've tried to look at it in a positive way from the beginning for us. And honestly, this, in Ontario, the change that the government made to allow takeaway beer was really massive. And so we're lucky, like in a sense, there's some really positive things that came out of it because we had a product that people were interested in. We could sort of, tell the story of the product easy. And for whatever reason, some bottle shops, like all these new bottle shops popping up, a few of them started to carry our product, and then it kind of grew from there a little bit. But yeah, instead of being in the tap room, I was, and other people, we're a very small team, but we were in the van, once a week for 2 days. And basically from, February of last year up until now, of this year up until now, we've been going somewhere every single week with a van full of stuff. And, our long-term reach, I think, is greatly benefited from that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, and also working with all these new businesses too, right? It's been nice for us to partner up with some, whether it's, I'm wearing a Tommy's, Tom, this is a place in Toronto that it's a tiny little store now. I think it was supposed to be something else, and they just push a lot of beer. In Roncesvalles sort of area. And then so you develop all these relationships with new businesses, and it's been nice. It's been a grind, but it's actually been nice to have that. If we didn't have that, if there wasn't the sort of invention of bottle shops overnight, I think we would have been in trouble for sure.
What an evolution! What an evolution that has been for for breweries in the province, eh? It's funny you mentioned that because my very first taste of your beer was when Dominion City's Friends of the Dominion shop got some of your product in there. Which was fantastic because because they're in town for me, and I was able to just get it at a local shop. And we've talked before about Bar Lupulus, they've been really, really great for to have brewers all over the province that we don't usually get here in Ottawa, which is just a fantastic evolution. And what you're saying just really speaks to the value of being able to build your business with that.
Oh yeah, massive. Yeah, Lupulus is one of our favorite accounts for sure. They've been supporting us since the beginning for whatever reason. Obviously we dropped off a lot of samples early on, but yeah, it's been they went full tilt in the bottle shop too, right?
Yeah,
Early
they
on,
really did.
they went right into it, and thankfully they had that opportunity. So, as much as I kind of rag on the provincial government for a lot of things, this is one thing that's been really good for craft breweries.
Yeah.
And they show up in strange places, like, well, I mean, not strange places, but St. Catharines. Like, we have great relationship with Trust Beer Bar there. They had, I think, at one point, he had like 300 SKUs, all only Ontario craft beer. Like, it was just
Amazing.
insane, and he topped out. I think he pulled back a little bit, but he was, if you're selling it, he would buy it and he would sell it. So it was pretty, like, there've been some really nice stories like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's obviously mutually beneficial, because you guys get to sell more product, and these places like Lupulus, like Tommy's, like this other place, this is probably helping them keep the lights on during these these times.
They've totally reinvented themselves, a lot of them, right?
Absolutely.
How did that plan? Sorry to cut you off there, Nate. I just wanted to
go ahead.
Because this is fascinating to me that essentially using this. I think this thing wasn't spoken about enough, by the way. When I say the fact that bottle shops could be open, I feel like it was just kind of like casually. It just started happening.
No one wanted to rock the boat too much. I don't think.
That's a good point. Okay, that's fair enough. So then, if that's the case, then how did you guys decide to go along this route? Because I haven't heard anybody that have used these bottle shops as essentially a whole marketing stream. And you seem to be crediting these bottle shops for quite a part of your success. So how did it come about? How did you sort of build that out?
I mean, basically it's not too complicated for us. It's just seeing what are the breweries that we really look up to. What are they doing, right? Okay. And so some of them, like Third Moon, for instance, they were in some of the places we wanted to be in. Where are they? Matron is a good example. Matron had pre-existing relationships with a lot of the restaurants that converted to bottle shops. Okay. So just having conversations with some of those breweries that we really look up to, and then, survival, like trying to think, okay, is our product good enough to be in the van once a week and try to sell it to whoever will buy it? I mean, strategically we'll buy it. Find the places that want to sell good craft beer and are willing to pay a little bit of a premium, and then just grind it out, like really just grind it out. Yeah.
And I guess you got some traction and you just kept it going. You're like, all right, this is working, and then double down.
Yeah, and timing, double down, totally. As soon as we started to get a couple bottle shops, let's find every bottle shop. And, you talked to the guy at Tommy's in Toronto, he says, the guy from 4-7 on Bloor Street up there was in, and he tried one of your beers. He liked it. You should go talk to him.
Oh, right.
It's kind of word of mouth. Oh, yeah. There's like a really nice community of, again, like new business owners, kind of like myself, who don't really know what we're doing, but are wanting to, we're figuring it out as we go, but we want to find community, right? We want to have genuine relationships with people. We really want to try to help each other out because it is a mutually beneficial relationship, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, but doing the work is a big thing. Like, it's not easy to find these places and then just literally spend 12 or 14 hours in the van, just chugging away.
Totally.
But I'm very grateful. Honestly, it was a lifeline for us, and it wasn't talked about enough. People people don't know about bottle shops. I think part of it is the laws are still ambiguous, and a couple places we're in have been threatened by, AGCO inspectors. Technically, you're supposed to sell food.
I heard that.
Right. Yeah. So some places, like, they might include the price of a 50-cent bag of chips in your order, and you never get the chips. You're supposed to have some sort of potential opportunity to consume on site, I think. So you should have like a table with 2 chairs, and then you can have 500 products to go. So some of the rules are a bit ambiguous, I think, and we're just hoping that they're going to stay.
Yeah.
Because obviously, so the model though is important too, right? It's like, not you get to try it in Ottawa, but you're also willing to pay Dominion City like an extra dollar, 20% or something on top of our price, because that gives you access to our product in that market, which is really
Absolutely, it
nice.
does.
It's a great model for bottle shops and for us. The LCBO is not very attractive right now for us because, in part, because our beer costs a lot to make, and if we have to sell it to them at such a discount, to get
Yeah.
whatever final price we want, it almost doesn't make sense for a lot of our beers. So it's
And
a
one of
really
the
great
things,
alternative model.
yeah, for sure. And like one of the things that I find is beneficial about it too is that a lot of the beer that ends up in these places are places that like I could technically order from the like I could place an order for like from Third Moon to like to send to me directly, and I frequently do, but I do but I do also buy it from Dominion City or from Lupulus every now and then, because one, like for one thing, I don't have to pay for shipping if it's right there.
Yeah,
Like sure, I'll pay a couple bucks more per can, but I don't really mind that because I'm saving on shipping, and I also don't have to buy a 4-pack. Like I can buy I
yeah,
can buy it in singles
two
there. So
cans.
like there's
Yeah,
benefits to being to doing it both ways, and to just have those options open is a game changer.
yeah,
It's good for the
absolutely.
consumer. It's good for it's good for the brewery. It's good for the bottle shop. Like everyone wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully the model will last. So I think what we're seeing now is
Yeah.
some of the bottle shops are converting and just going back to being cafes or whatever. There's one in Waterloo that's a great little place called Princess Cafe, and they opened a sidewalk bottle
Yep.
shop. They just put a window, takeaway window. It's awesome, but they're
Yep.
keeping all their fridges. They invested in all these fridges, so now when you go inside, it's a wall of beer, which is
That's awesome.
pretty cool. And hopefully, I mean, it seems like they're going to give it a go at least. There seems to be a lot of demand for it there. A couple times I've been there, and there's been a long line, outside on the sidewalk, people waiting for their
Yep.
new beer
I've
drops.
Yeah, I've heard people from the region talk about that place. They seem to absolutely love it. Like Ren Navarro has mentioned that place a lot.
Yeah,
Craig from Craft Brand Co. Like raves about that place. Like the people in the area seem to absolutely love it.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is that so Mark, who runs it, he now has developed expertise, right, in terms of like curating a beer list.
Yeah,
Which is really cool. And some of these people are grinding it out too. Like I'm not sure if he's still doing pickups, but he would be going to Third Moon once a week, going to
yeah,
Badlands, going to all these places to pick up beer. And yeah, he cares a lot about the products he's selling,
That's so
Yep.
important. So
Yeah.
important.
So I've got another question that I wanted to jump to, but it's probably about time to get another beer, isn't it?
I think we're
I
about
think I'm
there.
good. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
this goddamn Pilsner. This is insane. I am so
It's really
impressed.
good.
I don't know if I've had a dry hopped Italian Pilsner. I was just kind of thinking it before. My last sip, I'm like, yeah, have I had a dry hopped Italian Pilsner? I just don't think that's super common. I feel like people just keep them a little more traditional, It's
Yeah.
glorious.
Yep.
What are we thinking next?
So
then?
I think we should do oats and cream next.
Sure.
I like your vibes, Nathaniel.
Well,
You
stepping
guys,
it up
all right.
stepping it up a little bit.
just a little.
Yep.
Whoever wants to
A
go.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay,
Nate,
I'll
you
go.
grab it. I'll hold the fort if you like.
All right.
I can talk to myself. Yeah, guys, honestly, this is amazing. I've been, like I was saying earlier, I've been wanting to try Fine Balance for some time. So, Nate was out there, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. So he was raving about it. And it's been awesome to actually give it a crack. All right, you guys have got that? I'll grab mine. Do you want to talk about the beer?
Sure. Yeah, so this is the first IPA that we released, really. Definitely credit to Eric, our brewer, for this one. And I think it's inspired definitely by the types of beers that Other Half are doing in Brooklyn.
Right.
Yeah, so the cream obviously refers to lactose. There's a little bit of lactose. I would say that pretty much all the beers we do, we try to be subtle with. Subtle, smooth, somewhat refined.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think the inspiration definitely comes from Brooklyn, New York, and yeah, just trying to create something that has a very unique flavor. Obviously, the hops are fairly,
Woof.
common New England style hops, Citra and Nelson Sauvin.
Yep.
Expensive hops.
Expensive hops for sure. Yeah.
Oh my god, the aroma on this is
Yeah, it's
spectacular.
insane.
Oh, nice. And this is seriously one of those beers that needs to be consumed pretty fresh. There's an
Yeah.
argument that could be made that, like up to about a month could be an ideal time.
What do you reckon?
I think, earlier the better in general.
Yeah. I don't like a month. I would prefer 2 to 3 weeks tops. Even
Yeah,
like
I think 2 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
2 weeks is probably good.
So that's
Now
not
this.
That's not being
October
crazy
18th,
though, right?
yeah.
I was October
No,
18th.
it's not being crazy. No.
I feel like people have said, "Oh man, come on, chill." Like I feel like I've really like busted people's ass about like if I'm getting an old beer or something like that. I just don't like the taste. Oh, Nate's got all the glassware.
Yeah, Nate, we're on the same schedule here.
Oh, what's going on?
Yeah, we really are.
I missed the memo.
No, you know what? You know what it was is I came by the brewery on my birthday weekend, and my parents were with me, and they bought me like a couple of glasses like as a birthday gift. So that's why I'm rocking all the glassware.
Very sweet.
It's beautiful, very very attractive. But
yeah, so it's not that heavy, even though there's some lactose in there. Like it's maybe a bit thicker, but yeah, the aroma's kind of insane. Like really
it's amazing,
fresh.
And this is
good.
Citra and Nelson. And this is I noticed that you've got the double oats and cream. That one seemed to be a rotating hop or hop blend, whereas this is a standard Citra and Nelson the whole time.
This is standard Citra Nelson, yeah. And to be honest, so the double oats and cream, we've done a few doubles that we're rotating.
Okay.
So one of them is Citra only Citra. Call it Reflection. It's I think maybe my favorite double just because I'm partial to Citra as a hop. Another one was Motueka. We've done a few times as a single IPA, single hop IPA, which is nice. And then Mosaic. So a lot of people love Mosaic. I do too.
Can't go wrong.
But that's probably maybe our most popular. And then we did a double with Mosaic and Enigma. It was also extremely good. But sorry, the double oats and cream. So for our anniversary, we just had our first anniversary, and we did a double version of this exact same hops, just 30% more. And then we did a variation on the double oats and cream that had Motueka and Mosaic in it. Again, same recipe, just different dry hop, and they were both really, really good. We're starting to, we're learning from breweries like Wood Brothers and Third Moon to go bigger on our hops at times. It's a bit of we could talk about that as a separate sort of issue, but it's a bit of a tightrope or balancing act for us here in Kingston, I think, trying to figure out like what's our price point and how much do we want to spend. But this one I think is pretty great as sort of a flagship IPA.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, where I think you've struck a really like a really nice balance with this.
A fine balance.
I mean, a very fine balance. Yeah. Oh, look what we did there.
It's too easy.
What I think you've managed to do here is that I think it's easy for a lot of breweries to fall into their flagship beer kind of coming off as a bit basic and a little too oversimplistic. Right. And it's not a bad thing. It's just it's just like their flagship beer can sometimes be become known as just kind of like a shrug, so sort of IPA, because there's almost too much of an effort to make it too approachable that it just becomes a bit bland.
Right.
And at the same time, a flagship IPA can't be super bold, really punch you in the face with bitterness and be too intimidating either. This is it's a bold hop choice, Citra and Nelson, but it's but it's used in a way that is not coming off too intimidating. And I mean, like it's okay. This is actually stronger than I thought it was. It's
It is strong,
7.1%.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
7.1%, but it doesn't drink like 7%. Like you could have figured this was maybe around 6, but it drinks very approachably, but also very interesting. Like it's got that super creamy mouthfeel,
Yeah.
and like just really nice like overripe peach like flavor going on with it. Like a bit of kind of like a white grape thing from the Nelson coming through. Like
Nelson,
it's got a lovely flavor profile.
Yeah.
So it strikes the right balance of bold and approachable, I think, which makes it a really, really nice flagship beer. Which kind of dovetails to the
I
question.
enjoy that analysis.
Yeah.
That was great analysis.
Oh, thank you. So that kind of dovetails into the question that I was coming. I wanted to come back to something that you said when you were talking about your brewing story. Was that you mentioned like having a very specific idea of the kinds of beers that you wanted to brew? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, so part of it, the sort of personal story, is that I have a close friend who actually invested a little bit in the brewery, who's from Portland, Maine. So I
Okay.
spent a lot of time going down there and seeing what they're doing. Breweries like Bissell Brothers, obviously, if you guys know them, or Austin
yeah.
Street, or a bunch, Maine Beer Company,
Oh, yeah.
and being in Kingston. So I moved to Kingston from Edmonton. Edmonton, Alberta has a growing beer scene now, actually, but in Kingston, there's a lot of great breweries, but they sort of specialize in different areas. Wasn't seeing a lot of that style here at all. If you look outside of Kingston and Stone City's a bit of a sort of one-off, or like to
Outlier.
the side, based on outlier, based on their size and how they package and all that kind of stuff. Great. Obviously, they have a great tradition, and they're kind of leaders in many ways in Kingston. But yeah, there's just, I guess, that sort of more modern style, juicy, hazy IPAs, not super accessible in Kingston, at least, and in the region more generally. It's changing now with Daft. So Daft wasn't open, and Matron was very fresh and new. Not that they really specialize in hazy IPAs. So I think that was it. Like, try to do something different and try to really get people to change their minds locally as to what good beer tastes like and looks like. That was kind of the goal. Seeing an opportunity here in the region for that. And it's still like, it still requires education. People are confused. Seriously. There was I won't say like where or whatever, but there was a bartender that asked me recently, had dropped off kegs and then stayed for lunch, had asked me to come and look at the keg and the setup, because it wasn't pouring right. And it was one of our IPAs on tap that was pouring, a little more orange juice like than this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was concerned that there was something wrong with the beer. Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah. And he wasn't, and to the point where someone had ordered it and they weren't serving it to this person because they were worried there was something wrong with it. So, the educational aspect, I'm like, no, that is a really great beer. It was just packaged 2 days ago. It's super fresh. It's good. Give it to them now.
Yeah, please.
But so here I think not to bash on Kingston too much, but we're always like a little bit behind. Kingston's a bit behind Toronto. And other parts of Ontario, and Toronto is maybe a bit behind kind of what's been happening in New England or the West Coast of the U.S. In terms of craft beer. So yeah, just trying to catch up a bit, and it's happening in full force, like all around us too. But I think it's still a good time for us.
Yeah, the whole region is really coming up. My partner and I have been spending trying to spend more time out in PEC specifically.
Yeah.
And just seeing where, we're friends with Justin from Matrons, a mate, and Nat and Drew from 555, and a few people around it. Like, Slake is coming up as well out there. And I feel that, and the wine scene out there, I feel like it's like that's sort of on the cusp of really exploding. And now if you, expand the Bay of Quinte with you guys and Daft and things like that are like doing those more forward-thinking, trendy beers that are inspired by, like you were saying, things from Maine and Vermont. I was actually going to ask about the brewer if his training in Vermont had anything to do with the beers, but like that I think it's I imagine so. It's just so it's such a welcome, because I always felt the beer in that area was always like, it's cool, it's fine, but it's traditional, and that's fine. But I guess it used to be essentially a retiree area. And, even talking to people out there about housing prices and stuff since the pandemic happened, good old Torontonians ruining everything as usual. They come out there and fuck up the game for all the housing prices, which is not fun.
Yeah.
And now,
it's crazy. Yeah.
I think, but at the same token, that's one negative side. But the positive side is that influx of people who want third wave cafes, who want to drink the same, Bellwood style stuff, but out there and not have to order from Toronto or whatever. I think that will sort of force the region to get with the times a little faster. I don't know.
Yeah.
I appreciate it as, we went out there like a couple months ago. We're going back in a couple weeks to soak it up a bit more. And it's nice. I feel like it's almost like exciting. Like I'm from Australia, and I remember I've been here 11 years, but I've been going back only for the last I've been back 3 times in 11 years, and just seeing the beer scene change every time I go back. I'm like, damn, it's probably like the most exciting place in the world, because then they can tap in to all of the different, knowledge bases over here, make all this stuff. And then I go back one year, I'm like, oh, it's not bad. I come back the next year, I'm like, hey, you guys are really getting there. And obviously the pandemic ruined everything, so I haven't seen the last couple of years. But I think I see the Bay and Quinte region, where Kingston and PEC and stuff, in that same way. I think it's cool that it's coming up.
Well, there's a lot of forward-thinking people, I think. That's it. Like, when they went to the county, they saw opportunity to do things differently there, and push things forward and fill a gap. That's part of it, right? Like,
definitely.
Pushing things forward. But it's funny, you're talking about products and like people moving from Toronto to Kingston, which happened a lot, I guess, during the pandemic. Some people cashed out on properties, other people were looking to buy their first home, and Kingston seemed better than the GTA. One of the small things we did during the pandemic was buy a freezer. Like I bought like just a 2-door stand-up big freezer, and filled it with products. So a lot of the products came from Kingston restaurants, who were doing frozen food to go. And that was great because people want to support local, and it helped us develop some relationships that, paid off down the line. But the other thing we did was start carrying pizzas from Pizzeria Libretto, which I don't know if you guys have heard of this place, but it's like a chain in Toronto. So they've had crazy pandemic success making frozen pizzas. So one of their restaurants, they've now converted to be a full-time pizza making factory, basically. Frozen pizza making factory. So we were selling like a ton of these pizzas every week, which was awesome. That's and we look around, and my brewer actually, so his partner has a successful like general store, small kind of grocery store in the neighborhood. And we're looking around and we're like, no one else is doing this. It's not hard. Again, we just get in the van. We have deliveries to do in Toronto. We'll do our deliveries. Then we'll pick up like 400 pizzas, packed in boxes, bring them back and sell them. And, it wasn't a huge revenue source for us, but it was pretty sweet during that. And I credit Eric for most of that. But just like having that idea, like, what can we do? What do people want here? Oh, they want Pizzeria Libretto. They want a high quality frozen pizza that takes 5.5 minutes in the oven, and it tastes like it was made at the pizza place. So
I love it. I love that stuff.
And that's so places like Matron are doing, a lot of places are doing that for sure. But it's slow. It's just slower here.
And that's the beauty of it. I'm realizing as a city kid, and now actually considering spending more time out there, I'm like, there's something to it. And Justin was showing us we hadn't been to Matron before, so we went and saw him like last trip in September. And he was showing, he goes, I got 14 acres. See those woods over there? Just behind that, we've got all us. See at the back there, all the way to the end? That's us. I'm thinking about building a house up there, building a basketball court. I'm like, geez, all I could see there was potential. Like, my whole body was tingling with potential. And I don't see that in the city because it's priced out. And I feel like there is such a beautiful place, because it's starting to get a little bit, I don't want to say ruined, because my girlfriend's from Toronto. I spend a lot of time there too. But, the Toronto folks, as they tend to do, spread out because Toronto's too pricey, and they'll come and they'll push the prices up. But at the same token, that like it's at that cusp where, if you catch it in a few years' time, it's going to be maybe too expensive. Yeah. But right now, It's just exciting because of things like that, because of people like yourself and your team that are forward thinking and going and doing something small, like bringing the Toronto frozen pizza up. Like that is cool because no one else is doing it. And that's really all it comes down to, is no one else is doing it. There's definitely a need for it. There's a need for beers like Oats and Cream out there, because even like if, there isn't, you go to all the bars around on the island itself or around, unless if you're not in there already, there isn't a ton of stuff like this. There's still a huge gap because most of the breweries are still quite traditional. So I don't know. I just think it's like it makes it, because of that opportunity, it makes it more exciting, I guess, for you as an entrepreneur and just for the consumers being like, man, these guys are doing this sick stuff to bring, even if they're locals and didn't even know about it. They might be like, hey, it's this famous Toronto chain. Let's get this pizza and then drink this weird orange juice beer. Like, let's go.
Why does it look like orange juice? The guy actually made some analogy to a McDonald's drink of some sort. I don't know.
Oh,
Gross.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I want to just quickly...
it's true.
No, go on. Sorry, go.
No. I was just saying part of it is, the hard part is the educational side of it, though.
Yeah.
So trying to get people that are conservative, have certain way of thinking the world. So these pizzas, the frozen pizzas from Libretto, they're not cheap either, right? It's like, you're going to sell a pizza for $14, a frozen pizza for $14. Like, well, you should try it. And then, they try it and they might come back and buy more. So, but it's the same with our beer. It's, why is, when we first opened, not okay. In the grand scheme of things, we haven't had too many complaints about price. But someone comes in and says, I can go to X brewery, in town or out of town, and I get a tall can of whatever for like $1 less than your Oats and Cream. Why is that? It's like, well, there's many reasons. There are many reasons. But
here's the hop pricing sheet. Take a look at that.
Yeah. Ingredients is our first sort of line of defense for sure.
Yeah.
And in general, we tell you the ingredients that go into the beer too. We're not, disguising it.
And that's a good thing to to be upfront about. And it's like very clearly labeled here, like ingredients: water, malted barley, oats, lactose, hops, yeast. It's one of those things that I wish more people did.
Yeah. Well, and online we generally, so I fumbled with the Testaccio because I never think about those hops, it's like Sapphire, whatever, hops that don't mean that much to me because I'm primarily like IPAs. But if we're going to release an IPA, you're going to know the hop.
Right.
Yeah,
different.
No matter what it is. Yeah, you're going to know whatever it is. Those are the hops that we spend money on.
Yeah, and it's it's one of those things, like very naturally, even as beer drinkers, we don't often think of the hops that are in a Pils unless it's something that is kind of marketed as an aggressively dry hopped Pils. You don't generally think of the hops that are in it, or if you do, you're thinking of some of the some of kind of the standards, like with a Czech Pils, you're thinking Saz or something like that. But if you're thinking of an Italian Pils, I'm thinking I can't think of any hops that are standard for an Italian Pils.
No.
It's a little crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask about the it's the old virtual combos. Unless you want to say something about that, I just want to touch on your brewer being trained in Vermont and that resulting in the style of beers that you guys do. Because I came into this just loving the branding, loving what I'd sort of seen and heard online, and specifically when Nate was there, I was like, please, tell me, I'm fascinated, and he was raving about it. So I'm like, okay, sick. But I still didn't really have an idea of, when I think of Fine Balance, I didn't know this was your flagship, which is even cooler to me that you, exactly like Nate said, you chose a non-pedestrian, big Lactose, of course. I've never seen a Lactose IPA, New England IPA as a flagship. Like that in and of itself is mind-blowing. How did you guys and sort of Nate touched on this earlier, as far as like you wanted to do something that was missing in the area, but could you kind of elaborate on that a bit and talk about how your Eric was the brewer, right?
Eric,
and how he sort of influenced that.
Yeah, so he studied in Vermont, did brewing school down there. When he was there, obviously, he spent a lot of time in the region, like traveling around. I think I'm more partial to like Maine, Vermont. He's a bit more partial to Brooklyn.
Okay.
But they're similar styles. And yeah, for me, it was essential that we had a head brewer that could make hazy IPAs,
And well.
and really well. Yeah, really well. There are hazy IPAs in the region, maybe outside of Kingston, that aren't even really hazy IPAs. Like there's some New England IPAs that come out that are poured, like copper color. But
Not so optimal.
yeah, but so everything is kind of inspired. Even like when we talk about the branding and the packaging. Again, I spent a lot of time in Portland, Maine. The designer who did the initial concept. So I actually hired someone just to do this template initially. He was from Portland. Like he works with a lot of the big breweries down there. He's a one-person shop. But I specifically sought someone out, which is maybe unfair. Like now we do work with a local designer in Kingston who did Testaccio actually. He does a lot of great designs. But at the beginning, It's like, okay, yeah, he does amazing designs actually. He's done probably 7 or 8 of our labels. But for that initial design, I was thinking, okay, we should go outside of the box. And in this case, we're actually going to go outside of the country, find someone who works with breweries that Eric and I respect, and see what he can come up with. And he came up with 2 drastically different designs. One of them I hated, and one of them we sort of loved. So, sorry.
Here we
are. There you go.
Series talking. Yeah, so here we end up with this, and it's clean. It's modern. I think is kind of what we're going for. Simple. It can stand out based on its sort of simple, clean line design. And so we weren't seeing that. I wasn't seeing that here so much. I think there's a lot of breweries that have amazing design, like Collective Arts or something. Like what a great concept, You can't do that. You can't do that again. Like they have that pretty well cornered.
Yeah.
And then just for practically, it's nice to have something that's simple that we can actually work with, and that we can modify a bit and change and love and see it grow without having to hire someone new every time to do something crazy. So it's worked out. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I should say is this is another maybe topic, but we do a lot of small batch stuff too. So it allows us to do short run labels of things very easily, like having a nice set template that we like and we can go to anytime.
Right. So you just like change the beer name and the information there
and change the color and
change
then
the color.
Yeah.
I love
and
the
then
color
we can
block.
it's really nice.
Super cool.
But yeah, so we can do like 500, or we do a lot of pilot batch releases that might be up to 600 cans. So we can just get 600 labels printed. We don't have to invest a lot in that beer in terms of the design. Because there's already a lot of labor involved in a pilot batch release anyways. So
I guess if it works, then you can scale it up. Sorry, Nathan.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
No, that was it. I just wanted to make that comment. That is a lot. Please go.
Yeah. Something that I appreciate is that it's clear that your brewer has quite a bit of depth, because like you were saying, you've definitely got a brewer who can make a very good hazy IPA, and and even for a lactose IPA, something that is still quite balanced and refined and and approachable, is really doing that mark very well. But at the same time, it has a very regular run of good lagers too. The Marzen that you that you guys put out, that was fucking great.
It was good. Yeah. And actually so we have a assistant brewer who did that beer, Richard, who has he's got a great pedigree as well, brewed a lot on his own, and that was his baby, that Marzen. I think he'd brewed one a few years ago. He wanted to brew it, and it came out really good. It was perfect.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
so
that's
I think,
like that's brilliant that you've got kind of that balanced skill set in your brewing
mhm,
team.
Mm.
Um, it's it's one of those things that is a bit rare in the industry, like particularly among new breweries these days, I find. And like and I mean there's a lot of like there's a lot of rage and whatnot on like on Twitter about hype breweries
yeah,
and I'm not joining in on that. Like there are a lot of hype breweries that I love. At the same
yeah,
time, I acknowledge kind of the problematic nature of hype chasing and kind of the direction that it pulls the industry in. Um, but what I think is good is when there are breweries that come out of it that can like your branding is fucking brilliant on this because I was almost going to say it again just completely by accident, is that like you guys run a
fine
good fine
balance. Yeah,
balance on this.
yeah,
Like in terms of what you put out. No, but it's really true
yeah,
though, like because you're putting out like a very good hazy IPA that is very
yeah,
thoughtfully brewed, and at the same time, like you've got that balanced skill set on your team that
yeah,
that you're putting out good loggers in a quite creative range there as well, because you've got this Italian Pils, you've got you've got a Marzen. It is a good it's a really good diverse lineup that you guys have.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that. It's, I mean, I think it's tied into our philosophy, I guess. Like even this idea of fine balance in a sort of cheesy way, we're trying to offer a fine balance of beers. Like everyone can find their, like everyone should be able to find their style or whatever. So that is, while we want to specialize to some extent in like hazy IPAs, we do want to do everything really well.
Mm.
And so that's, I think, is our identity. Um, we can look up to breweries like Third Moon that actually do a lot of things well, or that are some of the more heavy IPA centric breweries, um, and try to learn from them from those aspects. But what we're going to do is try to do everything, and literally, like,
Yep.
I think we did 25 releases, like different beers in our first year. Many of them were IPAs, but we have two Pilsners. Like if you go down to Craft in Ottawa, which might be a divisive place, they have our Wolf. I'm a fan. They're nice, good customers and all that. But they have our Wolf meets Raven Lager, 4.3% lager, and they took that on
Right.
tap like permanently, which is amazing. They needed a lager to fill their page. We've done a British Mild Ale that has a fan base. My father-in-law is probably like at the top of that list, and a lot of his friends. But I could go for a 4.1% British Mild once in a while. There's
Yep.
nothing wrong with
Sure.
that. A
Yeah.
Weizen, like this summer, one of the beers we crushed it with in bottle shops was our Weizen, because there's not a lot of Weizens. Like there's not a lot of good Weizens on the market in
Hmm.
Ontario.
That's true.
So for a while, we were sending out cases and cases of Weizen to all these bottle shops and kegs because they needed something, right? So
Yep.
I think that's our kind of part of our identity, is just everything we do, try to do it to a really high standard.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
and
great.
balance it out. But
No,
Is it time for the next beer, I think?
I'm with it. Look at that. We're basically on the hour here. I'm
I think so, yeah.
so impressed. I'm so impressed.
Thanks.
Man.
I'm glad it's tasting good for you. Probably spent 2 days in the mail, kind of sitting somewhere, but
Yeah, do you know what was? I was actually said tonight I was a little stressed. So I'm in an apartment building, and I didn't get I guess maybe that day I didn't check it, and I guess it's starting to get cold. And typically the lobby, we have this big ass table where they just chuck packages. Normally all summer long that lobby is air conditioned. It's a perfect place for it to wait. This came at a time when the heater is on, even though it probably wasn't necessary. And when I got the box, I was saying that I was like, "Oh my god!" I wouldn't say hot, but much warmer than I was comfortable with. So I got I was like, "Oh man, I hope these are okay." And this is glorious. So
I'm glad it tastes good.
Yeah, man. What?
Nice.
Oh, it's amazing. What were you guys thinking for Nexties? We have a plethora of options.
Yeah, we do have a plethora.
I'd call it.
You
Why
go ahead, Nate,
don't
if you have a
yeah,
idea.
I've got an idea. Just so that we're hitting a good range of the styles here. Why don't we grab that Gelato Sour?
Okay, yeah. You guys have the strawberry, right?
I think
Strawberry
it was
vanilla?
strawberry.
Yes.
It was a pink one. Yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna get that.
Yeah. Grab yours. Nate, you can go. I'll keep talking. I'll grab
All right.
mine and tick.
Good job.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, honestly, guys, like this is 2 for 2. This is A1. I was a little bit concerned about the heat, but it did not affect it, so that's all I can ask for. Probably better than the cold when the cold freezes up a beer, but yeah, I really love what Nate said about this being a bold choice for a flagship beer, like a 7.1% lactose, oats and cream IPA, New England IPA as a flagship, which is just a phenomenal concept for a flagship beer, and it's just in that right zone of like it's just sort of sweet enough. There's a bit of lactose in there, but like it's not overly crazy.
If you're having a slushy beer, would you put it in the freezer?
If I was having a slushy, yeah, I've done that before with smoothie sours, like say Rorschach or Third Moon or Brewski.
Yeah,
Chuck them in there. Do you guys do like smoothie sours or slushies or whatever?
we haven't. No. We might.
Would you say yet? I was gonna say it's now I'm understanding more about what you guys do, which is actually more of a wider breadth than even I anticipated. Because I remember Nate posted the photo of him drinking the Marzen from you guys, so I was like, oh, okay, we're doing the Marzen, and typically the breweries that you're sort of like following in the footsteps of don't always have that type of beer.
I think I'm doing a Marzen or a British mild, although the mild's caught on a bit since we brewed ours.
But I think that's even cooler that you're able to make this level quality New England IPAs with a dry hop beautiful Pilsner, and then still be able to do these other type of beers that maybe the hype lords aren't going to be creaming over, but they're a ton of fun. I'm going to grab my strawberry banger. Do you guys want to talk about that? Are we back in a sec?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's fun. Yeah. You have the strawberry vanilla. So this is turning into a bit of a series for us, actually. This is the first one we released in the series. Gelato Sour Strawberry Vanilla.
Okay.
The first, so we've released it a bunch of times, but this sort of, it's funny. I hadn't heard the term hype beer for a long time. Well, I mean, up until maybe we released this beer. From one of our licensees who wanted to buy it because he thought it was going to be hype beer.
Right.
Yeah, it's been good, and I don't know. I mean, it's introduced a larger market to us, or a more diverse customer base, which I think has been really important. And from that, we've decided to sort of lean into it or go almost all in with this Gelato Sour series. So there's a little bit of lactose in here, which makes it extremely creamy. This one has a few 100 pounds of strawberry puree, organic strawberry puree in it. And vanilla, a lot of vanilla. The vanilla kind of comes through on the finish a little bit. But it's sort of like everything we do, pretty subtle, not overly sour. You're not going to pucker up or anything drinking it.
You're looking at 5.4.
No, not at all.
Very drinkable.
That head is crazy. Look at that. Like, I love that murkiness in here. That's a lot of the puree. I'm here for that, bro.
Yeah,
and for a beer with puree in it to have a good frothy head like that, that can often get lost in beers with with fruit puree, which really this came out quite nice.
We're very concerned with carbonation levels.
I could see that.
Well, this head is A1, like you were saying,
and just a gorgeous color too.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It looks beautiful. Yeah, this is nice. So I was saying we this was the first one we released. I think we brewed it 2 or 3 times in fairly quick succession because it was going fast. There was a lot of demand, especially we brewed this at the beginning of the summer, bottle shops and other places. But yeah, it's bringing in a more sort of diverse clientele. A lot of women love this beer. It's very approachable. And so for
Super.
our anniversary a couple weeks ago, we did 2 variations. We've actually done 3 variations now. One raspberry lavender, which was a bit more
Ooh,
Ooh,
tart with the raspberry.
nice.
that's a good one.
And then we did a blueberry coconut for our anniversary, which was nice. And then we did a
Right.
rhubarb strawberry cardamom, and the cardamom was like pretty banging.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've never
yeah,
heard
really
of
nice.
oh,
any
I
of those
love that.
combinations. Any of those?
Yeah,
I've never heard that. That's amazing.
I love that.
I think they've all, fans of this beer pretty much like all of them.
Yeah,
Um,
I would think so. Unless you're particularly put off by by any one of the fruits, I can't
yeah,
imagine anyone being into this beer but not being into the rest of
yeah.
them.
The
Yeah.
blueberry's a bit strange because of the color, but
Oh, sure,
throws some
sure.
people off. But it's not super dark blue or anything.
No,
Yep.
blueberries are surprisingly. Usually, like people add like a blackberry or something to get a bit of color in there because people see the blueberry and they expect that blueness, but it's like
That's right. Yeah,
does nothing.
no.
And even strawberries is an interesting one because it's such a wicked fruit, but it's much more subtle than people would imagine. Like it's not like a raspberry that's really front and center.
No.
So you probably had to put a shit ton of strawberries in there to even get that sort of flavor profile as bold as this.
Yeah.
And then the vanilla probably just kind of gave it a lift, I imagine.
Yeah, that's right. Just like smooths the ending a bit.
And something that
I
I
think we put
think
about 3.
works
Mm.
something that I think works really well with this, um, it being the like kind of like more on the sour side than say a milkshake IPA, is that I think when it can lean into the natural tartness of of the fruit, I think
Mhm.
that helps. Whereas sometimes the problem with milkshake IPAs is that the fruit can really be fighting the hops. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
but in this case, like it really is just leaning into it quite nicely. And like you were saying, it's
yeah.
not like really like puckeringly tart, but like it's really
Hmm.
just kind of leaning into the natural tartness of the fruit almost.
Mm.
I should mention with this beer, we actually dry hop pretty heavily with Belma hop, which has like
Strawberry
strawberry
notes.
flavor to it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that.
So it
That's
really
smart.
just intensifies the strawberry. We try to kind of with the sours match the hop to the fruit as much as possible, and it's worked
Yeah,
out I think pretty well so far.
that's
Why?
smart.
I love it when I love it when people do that. It's the best way to do it. The fact that it's called a gelato sour is very descriptive. It's very like it paints a picture.
Yeah,
So when you're like, hey,
yeah,
check out. Is there any beers you're interested in? I'm like, I think I listed literally everything.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this,
This is branding. Yeah,
I
go
mean, the
ahead.
branding itself with the little sort of ice cream kind of scoops on the side
Yeah,
there is super cool. But just
yeah,
being that like the word gelato is very it brings a very strong picture to anyone's mind of the
yeah.
cone and the big sorbet Italian ice creams. Um, is when you guys were doing this, like where would you put in what you just mentioned the smoothies or slushies before, like where would you position this beer in the breadth of sort of heavily fruited sours that we're dealing with in this world? Like this isn't that far removed from a smoothie or slushy, if I'm honest. I feel like you'd probably
Yeah,
just ramp it up a bit and that's where you'd be at.
yeah. I think it's sort of like halfway between the slushy smoothie sour versus just a sour without lactose.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's on that spectrum for sure. Um,
And
yeah,
I guess you've sort of like with this sort of I'm just trying to think of where to position where people are thinking of this beer, and I had the reason I'm mentioning it is I had Keegan from Four Origins here in Montreal. I was talking to him recently.
yeah,
He was like, "Man, we had people come in and they drink our sour and they're like, why is it not like thick like a smoothie, like a thick shake?"
yeah,
They're like, "Oh, not because people think that's what a sour beer is at this point because of the prevalence
yeah,
of those styles of beer." So
yeah,
to position something like this that is named essentially makes it kind of feel like I don't want to say pastry sour, but you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
they're named
for
after
sure.
a dessert,
Yeah,
you know, and it
yeah.
is really like there's a lot of thickness, there's a lot of fruit in
It's
this.
thick. Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
this interesting, like not quite a smoothie, but more intense than a regular fruited sour. I
To
would,
be yeah, like to be 100% honest, we wanted to carve out a new style.
well,
Yeah,
I think you got it done,
wanted
huh?
to we wanted and no, there have been gelato sours before. if you look up the hashtag Gelato Sour or whatever, it's been used a lot of times,
Okay.
but not here. Not here that often. I don't think in Ontario much that I know of, at least.
I've never seen it anywhere.
So we're thinking
only,
like, how can we invent this thing or reinvent this
yeah.
thing?
The only one that I can think of is Flora Hall here in Ottawa have done they call it a sorbet sour, but it's the same
Right.
but it's the same idea. They're the only ones that I can think of. It's it's not a commonly it's really not a commonly done style.
Now you say it, Rorschach do a sorbet IPA, but not a sour.
Sorbet IPA, yeah.
So when you say it like that, that makes so much more sense, actually, when you put it. Because it's sort of this, like, but I feel like this gelato, there's something about this sorbet, but I've never seen a sorbet sour. So, like, something about the gelato, and I mean, maybe it's coincidence tonight, but it ties in with the Italian Pilsner. It feels like this consistency.
Yeah.
You know,
we definitely have a bit of an Italian flair in some ways. Yeah, I think it's, again, because Eric was living in Italy maybe before he came back. But yeah, it's interesting. So when to be honest, I hadn't had a slushy sour before we released this beer. It took me a long time. It took us a long time to get one. They're not easily accessible in Kingston. Kingston Brewing Company has them. And, when I was doing deliveries, eventually I brought a cooler. Specifically, actually, the guys at Third Moon gave me a few. We did a bit of a beer trade, which was nice. My partner loves sours, so she was like, I need to try these. Get me the slushies, or the smoothies. And obviously at the brewery, we try to try things all the time that, are moving and shaking online and gaining traction to see what other people are doing. And, so it took us a long time to actually get our hands on some of them. And they're good. Yeah, they're inspiring. But I think, there's so much, like, I don't know what they're doing exactly, but there's just so much fruit in those, like they're just adding pure fruit right to it. And which is why, it's like, this is fermented fruit, right? It's unfermented fruit that they're putting in, which is why these cans can explode and all that. But
it's few and far between.
I don't know. It'd be interesting if we can step up, because I think if you get to that next level, it has to be really good too.
It's an interesting one, because I feel like it's a divisive style. Nate and I. Nate, are you team smoothie? Are you with me on this?
I'm not as intense about it as you are. I'm still very pro smoothie. I'm all for them existing. I'm all for people making them. I'm not quite as I'm not quite as intense about it as you are. I'm not willing to fight about it as much as you are.
I'll die on that hill, bro. I will die on this smoothie
I know you will. I know you will.
I just feel like there's a lot of misunderstandings about the style. And look, is it the people start to argue, is it beer? Like, it's an interesting question. I've had people like Derek from Brewski said it's not beer. I'm like, cool. Like, who cares? Does it taste good? Yes. I feel like that the fruit purees are so consistently good that as long as you can manage the post-firm issues, which, seem to be... I mean, Bebo told me, he said that out of like 30,000 cans, there was 10 that exploded, and people make a big deal about those 10. As you can tell, negative news spreads better than good news. So,
for sure.
That was the numbers on one of our Chinwag lives. He actually commented that, and I was like, okay, so people need to chill. On the explosion thing, there's other breweries like Small Pony who are pasteurizing, and I think even Masorum started doing it now in Montreal because they were having explosions. Once again, it was probably 10 as well, but enough that someone posted on social media because their fridge is purple, and then everyone's mad about smoothies. So I think they're an interesting sort of style, but I guess to come back to what you said, like, can you make them good? The good part, I think, comes to making them stable. If you're, and as long as the base beer, which is essentially a Berliner Weiss, I guess, is decent, you're chucking this consistent frozen fruit puree on top of stuff. Like, I don't know if and please correct me if I'm wrong, I just don't even know how much you can even mess that up. As long as the ratio, if it's multiple fruit, as long as the ratio.
No, I think, the issue for me would be the control after the fact. So I think it's good if you sell it right away, but the experience matters a lot, right?
That's true.
And people, you can't control someone's experience. Like you can't control if they're going to leave it in their back
That's the
room
point.
instead of putting it in the fridge. And if it's only 10 out of 30,000, then that would definitely give me reason to be calm about it.
Yeah.
But the question about is it beer is important, though. I think it's probably important that we say it is beer, right?
Well, it's at least like
because we have to be moving. Yeah, well, it's still whatever percent alcohol, and there's a beer base.
Usually 5 or 6. I've had 8+ % smoothies, and you can't get alcoholic smoothies from a store, so
no,
it's gotta be beer.
It's gotta be beer. I think. But people, I don't actually love I don't love sours that much. I like our sours a bit because I'm biased. Like I like this sour because it's not super sour. We've done a couple sour IPAs that my partner will go crazy for. And I'm like, you can have this. And I don't need it, which is fine. We all have our personal styles.
Absolutely.
But it's really important that people are doing those beers because we have, again, it's just about pushing things forward, right? And be forward thinking. Like there's a lot of people in Kingston that don't consider, I'm sure, a lot of our IPAs beers. It doesn't look like a beer. It doesn't taste like a beer, but it's a beer, right? And I'm sure we can all agree on that. So
absolutely.
Are we going to specialize in smoothie sours? Like probably not. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't say it's not a beer. And I'd say for the industry as a whole, it's probably really important that Third Moon and whoever else are doing really good ones, to change people and expand, open things up. Because for so long, everything's been pretty closed and narrow-minded in brewing and craft brewing. So we got to change that.
We're very with you on that. It's one of those things that and Craig and I are very much aligned on this. Is that we find that there's a large segment of the craft beer scene that just loves something to get angry about, and they love stuff to rage about, and smoothies is the topic of the day. To get angry about 2 or 3 years ago, milkshake IPAs were the thing. And this is one of the things that at first we were saying it's kind of cool to see a flagship a flagship beer with lactose in it on Twitter, just kind of mostly as a joke, but just as kind of like a tongue-in-cheek counter to the rage. Craig and I started the hashtag Team Lactose thing and created a Twitter account for Team Lactose, just mostly to poke fun at just kind of the ridiculousness of the rage about the style. It just and just with all of that, and and you know what, it's fine. It's really fine. Milkshake IPAs did not destroy craft beer. Smoothies are not going to destroy craft beer. These kinds of there will be good and bad versions of absolutely every new style that exists, just like there's good and bad versions of every old style that has ever existed. It's people need to chill a little bit. It'll all be fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's something to be said even about when you're innovating and doing something that you guys are doing, what you're doing has been done before, but it really hasn't been done in Kingston, in your region. You could even argue the whole Bay of Quinte kind of region there. And in that experimentation, in that sort of trying to be a leaders in innovation, you've got to be testing different things. Some will work, some things won't work, and there's going to be the leaders in innovation often are the front runners. You're in the front of the field, and you're going to be the people who are getting that backlash, and then eventually people are going to get on board because of that groundwork that you guys have done, and hopefully that because you're a lot of people's local brewery, and maybe they'll come in and just drink the mild and the Weizen, but maybe they will be like, what's this gelato thing about? I like it.
Let's try it.
Exactly. And then just the fact that it's there, that it's approachable, that the branding's great, that they already love you, that there's that whole, you've positioned them mentally and got them in this mood where they're ready to try something when the time is right. And then you've got these offerings, these orange juice beers and these smoothie sour things and fruit, that are just open people's palate and be like, yeah, that's beer. And I think that's right. Yeah. I think it's more, what you are doing in that region is more important than perhaps people even give you credit for. It's
nice of you to say that. It's nice of you to say that. Yeah. I mean, we've had serious conversations about our offerings, and we're kind of getting to a point where we maybe have too many beers on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at our labels and we're thinking our inventory of labels is getting out of control. We need to start rebrewing more, right? And not just doing every beer. But we're also consciously trying to offer a diverse range, So we have a run night Wednesday night. Last night was our run club night, and a lot of the runners, they love our light hazy IPA or light hazy pale ale. It's a light hazy IPA, 3%. So now we try to make sure we save a keg of that, to put on tap for that night, because those guys or women come in and they love to have 2 pints of 3% beer after a run, and it's
That
the
makes
same thing
sense.
with our. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's another group that comes in for the Imperial Stout after their run and they walk home. Runners are a lot of runners are serious craft beer drinkers
Huh.
in a big way.
I used to be a runner myself, so, like I get it. Like sometimes
Ties in.
like different people have like a lot of like very different post run rituals.
Oh yeah. This has been amazing for us. Like the sense of community that's
awesome.
kind of formed and getting people in post COVID. The tap room was sort of a depressing place, even though we were pushing a lot of beer out the back door. The front was empty. But this sort of philosophical idea of having a diverse range of beers available is something that we're trying to focus on. And so that's why like I say, we're kind of going to do these and try to have them available all the time. We're not going to have 3 or 4 different styles, but ideally whoever shows up at the tap room, again, some people won't consider it beer in the tap room when they see Gelato Sour on there and then they taste it. But someone will love it, and some people will come just for that. Just like someone's coming for the light hazy 3%, someone's coming for the IPA, but someone else is coming just for this Gelato Sour. So it's important we can be consistent and have that good product available. So diversity of beer. I don't know.
No, it's perfect. It's so important. Like to be able to have something that like whoever comes in your door, whatever kind of beer drinker they are, whatever beer is in their mind, if they can find that on your tap list, that like then you're golden. It's the example that I often draw on is is what my parents are willing to try, because my parents are like a lot of people's parents who are who are in the beer scene, they're like my dad is is often very curious about like the beers that I'm drinking, and when he sees a bright hazy IPA, he thinks that he'll think that looks very strange, and and I'm like that that's what beer looks like that looks that looks really weird to me. He's always very curious, and if I tell him to try something, he'll try it every time. But that is still very weird to him. But when we were on the Fine Balance patio and I was having the Marzen, that looked a little more normal to him, and he was curious. And he was curious to try it. And he was like, you know what? Like this is really good. And and he took a can of it home. So
Nice.
and my dad's not even that much of a beer drinker. So so a thing like that where if if I bring him to to your patio and
It's
you've
nice.
got something that I love and you've got something that he loves as well, there's if you have something that anyone can come in and enjoy no matter what kind of beer drinker they are,
That's right.
that's ideal. That's ideal.
Yeah, we don't want to exclude anyone, right? Ideally,
Yeah.
like anyone can come into our space and find something they enjoy. So part of it is like we have for the Run Club, not for the Run Club, but they appreciate this a lot. The Dominion City, what is it? City Seltzer.
Yep.
Right. So we carry that. It's an amazing water, flavored water, 0 calories, whatever. Selling for $2 a can, and anyone can come in and have that in the tap room as well if they don't want to have the 9% Imperial Stout or the 4.8% Pilsner. We want and parents and children to be able to come in for sure. So I think it's really important. And a couple times we've maybe alienated people by our draft list. So it's hard for us to kind of juggle and have everything available all the time if we've just released like on our anniversary week, we were 2 double IPAs, 3 Gelato Sours, and 2 Imperial Stouts. It was a really big week for us, and we just wanted to put all of those on tap, But we kept 1 tap for the Pilsner. So,
but I think
and couldn't release
it's important to recognize. Like, I think it's important to recognize that, like, if you notice that you're alienating some people with your tap list, if you make adjustments accordingly to try to avoid that, that's a good thing to do. I think it's an easy thing to fall into in this industry, to to kind of have more of the mentality like, well, I'm selling products, so what's the problem? It's a much more nuanced approach to notice when you might be alienating some people, and really just want to be able to have something that anyone could pick and enjoy. It's a much more inclusive way to go.
That's an interesting thing. I was going to ask on that note then, do you see yourselves as a gateway brewery for the, say, like we were talking before about the locals and the people who are coming in and think it's orange juice and blah, blah, blah. And then, or do you think of yourselves as, you are clearly a beer geek like we are, that travel for beer, that are into haze, that are into all the same things as we are? Like, where do you see Fine Balance in that in that kind of spectrum?
Yeah, we're really trying to do both. Like as a person, like personally, I probably see myself and ourselves as the beer geek side, like trying to just do everything that's cool and everything that's like new and aggressive and pushing things forward.
Mm-hmm.
But as a business person, which in Kingston, and also as someone who's thinking about inclusivity, right? I think we need to be an educator. That's kind of how I think of it. Like, we want to convert people. We live in a east end of Kingston community. It's kind of, we work there, and it's kind of suburban. A lot of families. There are a lot of craft beer nerds there, which is great. But there's also a lot of people that don't know anything about craft beer. And ideally, they should be able to come into our place and enjoy it and learn something. But I think, practically as a business, we have to do both. Like, we have to have one ear in the ground of like what's up and coming. What are our exemplar breweries doing? And the other ear is like, well, do we have Testaccio on tap this week? For whoever, or do we have enough cans of Raven Meets Wolf or Light Hazy Pale Ale or Resilience Mild for the people that come in and only buy that beer? We try to convince them to try other beers. Like, they might come and buy 12, and we're like, do you want to sampling all the time? Do you want to sample this one, and occasionally they buy those other beers too. But it's a process for sure. We can't ignore those locals. No, that's the backbone. Like, most of our beer sells out the front door right now, to be honest. Like, it's probably 60% is out the front door, 40% might be at the back door.
Okay. Still, I see the address. You're at 677 Innovation Drive.
That's right. Yeah.
Nathan and
Kingston's
I are
filled with these.
Right. Team innovation is what we are here, and I'm all for I'm all for doing that, but I like that. I think that's a great answer, man. Like, you got to try and find that fine balance of.
It's all the balance, yeah. It's all the balance, yeah. There's a brewery, Spearhead Brewery, is on Development Drive in the West End.
Okay.
So we're yin and yang, opposite sides of town. We're innovation and development. Yeah, this is.
Oh, that's great.
The city planners' inside jokes, I think. But,
yeah.
It's actually pretty.
It works for us. We try to embrace it. Yeah, we try to embrace like the innovative aspects of it.
Well, obviously you're doing that from what we've had here. I think it's just cool though that there's like that you guys are even trying this. I feel like it's quite bold in and of itself to do something like this at this level, at this quality, to in an area like Kingston that's sort of newer to this type of thing. I know Stone City. I was. Whenever I went to Toronto, I always swung by whenever Justin was there, and always picking up what he was doing. He wasn't even doing the haze heavy even back then. Now I think about it,
more like West Coast style IPA.
Right. Yeah. But it was still pretty fun, and there's a lot of really
good. It was really great. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, but that was 2000. I mean, he was there 2014, 15, 16, I think.
Yeah.
And the New England IPA hadn't really hit.
No, it was I think the first one I had was Juicin from Soda City in late 20s, in like fall 2016. And then it kind of went, but it was very few and far between. Then I discovered Bellwoods had it, and then I lost my mind. But it was like a slower process. But I feel like what I really like about it, to be honest, is you kind of alluded to this before, where there are some breweries who are doing New England IPAs or haze or whatever it might be, these trendy beers, and they don't, they're opaque completely. I'm sorry, they're completely not hazy at all, or they're not really that juicy and they're kind of bitter. I'm like, what is this? They're just kind of like making it up and they're not really doing it, but they're calling it.
They're trying to market it as
to be trendy. But if you've got people who are buying a 12-pack of a Weizen or whatever, mild or something, and you're giving them a sample, you're doing it of you're representing these styles well. And I think that's important because if a brewery is trying to convince someone and they're not representing those styles well, it's not really going to go down too well, because those first impressions do kind of last, and not everyone will give them another try. Beer geeks will give it another try. The average beer drinker probably be like, oh, I tried a New England here, it was terrible, I'm not with that. And then it's over for them, And I think that what you're doing is giving people the possibility of fantastic beers on all sides of the spectrum, on the whole run of it, actually. And that's what's
I mean, it's definitely, it's education, right? Like, you like Bellwoods. If the one of the trickiest questions we get, I think we're developing our responses to it, but like, we offer someone an IPA and I try to say, like, I just want you to try it. Like, it might not be like anything you've had before or what you think an IPA is, but people ask, how hoppy is it? Like jutsu but how do you answer that question, right? Like, how hoppy is jutsu or whatever from Bellwoods? Like, well, we put a lot of hops in it, but the hops come after we brew it, like, when it's fermenting, and they're not making it bitter at all. Like, ideally they're adding flavor and aroma and all this. Our beers are hoppy but not bitter. Like, most people think hoppy, they come in and they think like, oh yeah, 100 IPUs or some IBUs. Like, we don't use IBUs. It pisses some people off, right? They come, they're like, what's the IBU on this? And we're like, well, we don't really use IBUs, but it's maybe around like 20 or 30, whatever. Like, just kind of make something up in the low range, because they're not bitter beers. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Whenever people, I think Nate's camera battery died there.
No, I'm still here, by the way. I'm just changing my battery.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man, no probs. The thing about that, I think you're 100% right. There's usually a joke about, IPAs, and people always make kind of fun of them who don't really understand what it is, and they always assume that it's got to do with this hoppy, tongue-stripping bitterness that was popular 7 to 10 years ago. That it's like the zeitgeist hasn't moved past that and realized that these juicy things, that these people who are shitting on the style would actually really like them. I find that it's my number one style for converting people. People who are like, who are just wine drinkers or whatever. You go, try. They go, what's that? I say, hey man, try this. And then there's like, whoa, what is this? And it's more so than other styles.
It works for us too. Like, it does. I mean, I appreciate your kind words, but like, if you have something that you believe in, product that you believe in, that you think is really good, that isn't really bitter. Like, our Tiptoe IPA might be a bit more bitter, but none of them are super bitter. They're flavorful. You're going to get sort of different fruit flavors from whatever you're tasting, even though there's no fruit in them, because the hops are, you try to explain, the differences between different hops, and you can convert people, which is like an amazing experience to have, that, for sure. And to be that gateway. So the gateway is really important, I think, because that's, I mean, the goal of craft breweries in general, or craft beer as an industry, right? We need 100%. To convert more people, ideally. Because there's still too many places, like downtown Kingston, where we've had great success being on tap at a few places, but there's a lot of big beers down there, and there's a lot of people, like reps, that are writing checks or doing whatever to get their beers on tap, and
that makes it hard.
We're not doing that. Well, it makes it hard if people don't like understand or appreciate the quality. Differences in craft beer. Yeah,
it's very different. Where do you see you guys positioned then? Like, do you guys see yourselves in the same conversation? Because now I'm talking to you, seeing what you guys sort of, set out intending to do, and now drinking the beers. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. You guys are in a different position than what I thought you like. I didn't really know before. I already
I don't know if it's the case. I don't know if it's the case, but yeah.
Like, do you know where you're wanting to be in that same breath as Third Moon and what Bellwoods and maybe Town and Rorschach and those type of breweries?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we want to be in sort of the top echelon. I know that our IPAs probably aren't going to be like Third Moon's IPAs.
Okay.
At least right now, in part because, I mean, they make really good IPAs. They have more experience making those IPAs, but in part because of the style and the ingredients and what we're willing to spend and what we're willing to charge for our products. That's part of it.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
does that that must hold it back a little bit, I guess, as far as like what you're able to actually achieve?
Yeah. I mean, we're figuring out our market, I guess, is the other sort of answer. I think so. The folks at Wood Brothers are doing such an amazing job.
They're doing some great stuff.
And it's crazy. Like, their story is just sort of insane, right? Like, this small system, they just brew tiny all the time, like, 4 times a week or whatever, pumping out beers, and there's such demand, and there's been sustained demand for a long time.
Oh, yeah. It's insane the way that they've grown and the way that they've had to grow to meet that demand.
Yeah. But they went all in on this one particular style of beer, right? And it's paid off in a huge way for them.
Oh yeah.
We haven't. Yeah, we chose not to do that, I guess. Like, our identity is doing this sort of more diverse range of beers. And there are different models, I guess. We have a 10-barrel system, which isn't huge, but it's bigger than some of these sort of smaller breweries. They're pumping out beers, and we've been really focused on that local market, I guess, which having a big tap room, where we want people to come in and do events, and whether it's a run club or a trivia night that we're going to start next week. We've had a few food pop-ups we have that are really successful. Being part of the community kind of shapes in a way the types of offerings that we have.
No, I get it. I feel like it seems to me that it's basically a matter of time before the hype boys discover, like, the real kind of like Third Moon fans and stuff. Once people discover what you're doing, because I think you've positioned yourselves in a place where it's new and in Kingston, where people don't expect to find this level quality. So it's almost like it's probably good to go even under that radar for a bit, and it's only been a year, you said, right?
Oh, yeah.
And keep, really establishing yourselves there whilst being in all these bottle shops to help you grow. And kind of what I was even leaning into, have you guys done any collabs with any of these people, which are, sounds like you're friends with a lot of these amazing
brands? We haven't yet, but we're planning to. So we have an idea to do a bunch in January, or a few in January.
Sick. I think that's
the plan is to do an sort of anti-dry January.
Dry January is useless.
And market it pretty hard. Like, do a bunch of IPAs, double IPAs, like, just big stuff for people that are not doing dry January. Because if you're not doing it, maybe you'll appreciate some bigger beers. Collabs are definitely something we want to do. We've done a couple local things, like, to raise money for different causes, but we're still like sort of developing relationships with different breweries too, though, which has been nice.
And and even outside of brewery collabs, like Raven Meets Wolf was kind of a collab with Wolf Island Hop Yard, I think, right?
Yeah. So they just started producing hops, I think, last year, like basically around the time that we started making beer. So that worked out really well. Not a lot of local hops available in the region. Yeah. And honestly, we love yeah, so this local artist, Vince Perez, did the design for that. He did 2 designs that were so nice on the can. We just took both and then we interchanged them.
It was a
So
really
initially,
cool design. I really like that.
yeah, really neat. So the malt
Check
is
for that.
from Raven. Yeah, the Raven's called the malt from Czech Republic. Really
Okay.
clean malt, and yeah, so that worked well. So we're definitely looking for more sort of collaborative opportunities. We've done one with the Run Club. We're doing one for the food bank in Kingston coming up, and yeah, definitely something that we're going to do more. Ideally, quite a few. Excuse me, in January.
I love that. I'm trying to
That's
find the
cool.
picture of the logo here. The
Oh, for Raven Meets Wolf.
I guess it would be on
Yeah, it's
Untapped
nice.
maybe.
It's a raven, yeah, engulfed in a wolf, in a wolf's head.
I'm here
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
pretty nice. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, it was
pretty
a cool
cool.
concept.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is sick. I like the idea of the. Oh, really? It doesn't have it on here. God damn it! Hang on, wait, there it is. Oh, that's cool.
yeah, yeah.
There it is.
That's one of them. Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
2. There's another one that's more circular. That maybe. Yeah, they're both
it'll
really cool.
be under Untapped has it all. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah,
There
I
it
like that
is.
one a little bit better, but yeah,
Yeah,
they're both.
very cool, very smart. No, I love it, man. I think this is. I think it's sick. I think the collabs will be a great way for people to really understand what you guys can sort of, what you guys do and what you offer in the scope of this more. I know we keep sort of doing the hype, but like it's really where you should be sort of positioned at the end of the day. And that's not to say that the hype breweries can't, because like I guess Third Moon isn't doing a Marzen or a Weizen or a Mild or anything like
Yeah,
that. They
no.
just wasn't in their game plan. But there are other breweries,
Yeah,
even like Town, who have really stepped up in doing that. Like they're doing some phenomenal
yeah.
stuff out there. And
Town is crushing it. Yeah,
killing the
Yeah.
game. And I think they do a bunch of they do a Hefeweizen
yeah,
and they do a bunch of different things like that that
yeah,
they still are able to really hit that hype note whilst also doing
yeah,
these other things. And I think there's a lane for that that's already kind of
yeah,
here and it's not unheard of. And I think it's like I think it would be essentially maybe unwise of you to only do a Third Moon model in the region that you're in, because it would just
yeah,
it would cut out, like you said, you want to be inclusive, you want to be have everybody's welcome, and if you didn't have those other styles, it would actually stop that. But then what you're doing, you're having the gateway and you're providing that bridge, and you've got the other bangers sitting right here, so they can stay there,
yeah.
or they can cross right over and drink some of these ones too, and
That's
happily
right.
move
Yeah.
between.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how we're doing. So Third Moon, they have a pretty set schedule and routine of releasing these beers that are hype beers. We we do them sort of sporadically. So we're trying to amp up the certain releases that we know could potentially fill that kind of mold or whatever.
Yeah.
So next week we have a triple IPA coming out, for instance,
Woof.
which is going to be
Oh,
kind of
nice.
crazy. Yeah. And so talk about like trying to convert the locals. 10% triple IPA. I expect it will go over pretty well. But I also expect that'll probably be a beer will be a beer that will push hard, like out, to bottle shops in Toronto and other places to
Yeah,
try and get us
I would
going.
say so. I
It
would
would
say
be
so.
highly
Yeah,
sought after. Yeah.
yeah,
That
I think it'll be good.
no, that is
So yeah, we're
yeah.
we're conscious of trying to do that sort of probably more as one-offs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we experimented with our double IPAs that went over pretty well. Like choose to spend a little more money, like put a little more hops in there and make them a bit bigger, charge a little more, and most of them. So we don't sell out in a week, but like most of our double IPAs, we sell out in about 2 weeks. Which is
That's good.
it's good. Yeah,
like
yeah. It's not selling
that's a
out in like 2 minutes like Wood Brothers or something, but it's still
no, but I
fast
mean,
for us.
for a heavily hopped double IPA, like to sell it out in 2 weeks, that's a good window. That means people are
Yeah,
getting it in
I
in
mean
the time of peak freshness.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Yeah,
that's when
yeah.
you want people to be drinking it, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's why, honestly, the balance thing, like we want to, for a little while in the summer, we were concerned with having beers available, um, primarily because we were selling too many kegs, to be honest.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, which is another sort of interesting issue. Um, but that's where having like the mild ales and our pilsners actually sell pretty fast, but pilsners, stuff that has a longer shelf life is really nice. Occasionally we have a 20 barrel fermenter and a 20 barrel bright tank as well. So we could do double batches. So we try to do a double batch of pilsner once in a while to have it sort of, last for a couple months.
Nice.
It's nice to fill out that fridge. Yeah.
No, I love it, man. It's just really, it's cool. It's going to be interesting to follow your journey and see where you guys go with this. I really feel like once you start, you collab with certain breweries and people realize who you are and what you do, I think it's going to be a problem, and you're going to be keeping up. You're going to have trouble keeping up with this stuff.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah.
No, it's cool.
It seems like, yeah.
No, go on, please.
Definitely, just happy. Obviously, we're just impressed by certain breweries that are able to do that. Knock them out every single week. But we're also happy with how things have gone.
Yeah.
So it's a balance. It's like we're grateful that we're able to continue to make so many beers.
Yeah.
Given the situation, like it seems like it should only be up from here with things opening up. Like even with the restrictions being lifted a bit on indoor spacing and stuff like that, it gets more people coming through, and so I think I'm with you. Like things are looking up for sure.
I think you guys are on a good path. I think you've got a good you've got a good recipe for getting people in your door, and for people wanting to drink your beer, and that's the best you can hope for.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. Was there anything else we wanted to touch on, fellas? Or we feeling like we nailed it all?
I'm probably good, but if you have any questions, Nate.
I think you've answered all my questions, man. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a good chat.
Yeah, really fun, interesting.
I knew it was going to be.
I'm really glad we did this.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about bottle shops actually, because it's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with them and how breweries. So one thing I guess I would say is that there are going to be one of our collabs for January is going to be with a bottle shop in Cambridge.
Amazing.
Oh, nice.
Crushing it. So these guys, they're called Old Galt Bottle Shop, but they went all in, and they bought like 10 huge fridges and just bring in beer from everywhere. And it's pretty inspiring to see, people take risks and then have it pay off ideally. So I think there'll be a lot more sort of synchronicity between bottle shops and breweries in the future.
Yep. One of the things I'm working on right now with the BAOS blog is I'm trying to put together like a directory of Ontario bottle shops, and and the thing that I'm just Old Galt was one that I was familiar with, that I follow, along with the ones like Sidewalk Beer Shop out of Princess Cafe and a couple of these other well-known ones. But one of the things that I was discovering in the research for that is there are even more than I realized. Like there's some that have like a really good online presence, like Fourth and Seven and Bevy Bira and whatnot. But like I'm discovering ones in Toronto. Like there's a ton in Toronto that I'd never even heard of before. And one of the ones that I came across, in fact, was Tommy's. It's insane how much this has exploded. And and even for me, who follows this stuff pretty regularly, there's even more than I realized. So it's exactly like you said, it's something that's just really not talked about enough. They kind of exist in these little pockets that outside of them, people just have no idea even.
Yeah, just a neighborhood beer store. I wouldn't be surprised if Tommy's sells more beer than I don't know, half the bottle shops in Toronto. It's just under the radar, but if you live in that neighborhood, you know where to go for beer.
That's so cool, though. I love that.
But they don't really carry double IPAs, imperial stouts, anything like that. No, seriously, they carry, they sell our Testaccio is his favorite beer, their favorite beer of ours.
Well, you know what? That's fine though. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. If he's able to make his business on on lagers and pale ales, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. Cool.
I love it. It's amazing. Let's just grab the thumbnail, then we'll wrap up, and then we'll finish up offline here. So I'm going to take a screenshot. You guys want to hold up some the cans? This is for the old YouTube picture. Oh, it's always tough to try to get as many as I can in one hand here.
Two cans. Okay. I have
Look
two
at
here. One's a bit battered.
Well, it's okay. Nathaniel? There we go. Hey, here we go. Oh, that is gorgeous. Man, Andrew, this has been genuinely fantastic. Where can
thanks, guys.
Man, seriously, I knew this was going to be great, but this was awesome. Where can everybody find Fine Balance online and in person?
Yeah, so we're Instagram at Fine Balance Brewing. We're Facebook at Fine Balance Brewing. Website is finebalancebrewing.ca.
That's the way to do it.
Common theme there. And then, yeah, if you're in Kingston, we're Unit 4, 677.
Innovation Drive.
That's innovate it. Yeah, close to the highway. So yeah.
Which is the closest highway of the 401 exit to that one?
Highway 15. So we're like right off Highway 15. Yeah, which is the first exit if you're heading west.
Okay.
And the last exit if you're heading east in Kingston. Yeah.
Okay. When we come from Montreal, our routine was to always stop at the A&W on Division Street.
Division. It's the one before that.
So it's before Division, yeah.
The one before.
And there's an A&W there.
As well. Well, that's even better.
As well. Yeah, so you're good. You're covered either way.
That's all you need. I love it. Nate, where can everybody find you, man?
Okay, so everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's at NathanDoesBeer. You can also find me on the BAOS podcast blog. Quick link to all of my blogs, NathanDoesBeer.com. And you can, of course, find me here occasionally co-hosting BAOS podcast with my man C.
Yes, indeed. Both you guys stick around. I'm just going to wrap this up. Stick around. We'll finish up offline and we'll get it going. But both you guys, thank you so much. This was a fantastic chat. I loved it. I really appreciate both your time. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, mate, of course, smash the thumbs up. Hit subscribe below. Hit the notification bell. Tell them, Nate.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media at BAOS Podcast. And check out the long-form audio. You can hear attractive individuals like Uncle Andrew and Uncle Nate talk craft beer. We premiere each podcast episode at 8 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again. Cheers. Get in ya.
Bam.